Yes, we should be live right now. Wow, this is exciting, you know? This is exciting. So,
Hi, Mel.
hi, Sarah. So, this is very exciting to be interviewing a special, very special guest. Tomorrow is my birthday in 2 days. So I'm only inviting special guests this week, and Professor Sarah Guri Rosenblit, whom I know as Sarah. But before we start, we have to have the jingle because I spent so much money making it. It took me years. So you're going to, what's the word? You're going to be kind to me and let me play my jingle.
Perfect.
Okay, here we go. Can't do it without the jingle.
Get a chair, grab a seat, or we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell you got Mel? When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. SRO, don't you know you got Mel? Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel. You've got Mel.
And Mel has Professor Guri Rosenblit.
Sarah,
Actually, yes, I'm going to get there. We have actually known each other for many years, but about 10 years ago, I don't remember exactly, when I was at the HIT or AFECA, and I was taking an interest
HIT. It was HIT here.
So it's maybe 7 years ago, and I was taking an avid interest in electronic teaching and teaching over the internet, and I wanted to speak to the world expert. And somebody said to me, the world expert is from the Open University, Professor Guri Rosenblit, and I gave you a call. Now, you tell
An
what
email.
happened.
You emailed me.
I emailed you, okay. My memory is not as good as yours. And then what happened?
Yeah, it was very funny because you emailed me and you said that you are interested in higher education, comparative higher education, e-learning, distance education, and so on. And you would be most grateful to meet me. And the funny thing is that you didn't recognize that many, many years ago, we were dance partners at Tel Aviv University for several years before I went to my PhD at Stanford University. So I answered you, yes, of course, I will meet you when you know me because I'm Sarah. So you didn't recognize me, you didn't know exactly my family name, and I also married, so it was added Rosenblit, that it's a different name.
I went crazy when I realized who you were, because you were my dance partner, and a wonderful dancer and a wonderful person. And I don't know how many years ago this was, but I
left Tel Aviv University. I left Tel Aviv University to Stanford in '79. So it was.
It was.
We stopped dancing in '79, something like that. Yes. Yeah, many years ago.
I had lots of hair, and you were a terrific dancer, and all of a sudden, I'm emailing you out of the blue. And it turns out that you're not only the world expert in e-learning, but you're also Sarah, my dancing partner from way back when. So we have lots of stuff to talk about. Start at the beginning. Talk about your childhood.
I was born in what was called then the Soviet Union, Vilnius, which now is Lithuania. And as far as I remember, on one hand, there was fear in the air. So because my father used all the time to listen to Kol Israel Gola, and people would gather, and I felt that if somebody is knocking on the door and is not invited, so people became pale and so on. So basically there was fear, but otherwise I had a wonderful, wonderful childhood with very loving parents. And only when I grew up, I could have appreciated the ways that they raised me and provided me with so much love even more, because they survived the Holocaust. For them, it was easier to talk about the Holocaust because my mother was a partisan in Kaunas, Lithuania, the forest of Kaunas. And my father fled to the Red Army, and he was participated also in Stalingrad battle and was wounded. But my father was the only survivor out of 28 close family members, including his wife and his 2-year daughter. My mother lost a daughter 7 years old, and her husband, who was the commander in the partisans, and 3 of her brothers and her mother. So basically, they lost all the world. But still, when they met and they decided to build a new family, they looked forward. Always I was told not to look backward, but to look forward with optimism. And I didn't feel, because many people that live with parents who survived the Holocaust say that there were nightmares and very difficult, disparate home. Nothing of that. It was a very optimistic home with a lot of records and music and movies. And once a year, we used to go for a month and a half to the village, rent there a cottage. And I remember it like wonderful, the river and the forest, and going for to collect berries and so on. So basically, it was a very, very happy childhood. But when we decided to go to Israel through Poland, because my father was born in a place that was Poland when he was born. So in 58, it was possible to move to Israel through Poland. And we kind of, it was a big remount at our house. And my mother said, I listened to my mother when we got the permission to go, again to move, again to destroy everything. And maybe we are not going to do it. I was 7 years old. And they heard me say, and if everything will be destroyed, then we will move to Siberia. Will it be better? So it means that I caught something in the air. If a child of 7 years old said some things, they told me that this kind of finished totally their hesitation when I said, and if we move to Siberia, it will be better. And we decided to move. So we moved to Poland, and we were supposed to be there just a few weeks ago to Israel. But then the Russians very much didn't like that the prime minister there, Gomulka, was then, that he lets people to go immediately to Israel. So they closed the border, and we were stuck in Poland for a year and a half. Wow. So my first class, my elementary school first class was in Poland. It was a Jewish school. It was Shalom Aleichem, it was called the school, but we studied in Polish and had several also lessons in Yiddish. And then after a year and a half, we moved to Israel and to Natzeret Illit, which is now Nofa Galil, but it was called Kiryat Natzrat and then Natzeret Illit and now Nofa Galil. Okay, I will stop here because there are many more things to tell. But
okay, so just a very brief aside. Did you know a family called the Chakins from Canada?
No.
Okay, so we move forward. So how many languages did you speak as a child?
You see, Hebrew is my first language, that in order of acquisition, because my first language was Yiddish. And
Yiddish?
Of course, Yiddish, yes, because in Lithuania, ich read Yiddish. Ich read a good Yiddish, ich schreibe Yiddish, ich lerne Yiddish. Yes, I speak Yiddish and I also write Yiddish.
Mameloshen.
Mameloshen, and Litvish is Mameloshen, yes. So my first language was Yiddish, and of course I didn't study. I was not in a kindergarten in Lithuania, and not in a school, but still with children I used to speak Russian, but I forgot it. And when I met my husband, who arrived at Israel when he was 30 years old, and all his friends spoke Russian, so my Russian returned. I'm quite fluent now in Russian, but I do not write Russian. I do not read Russian, but I speak quite fluently. And Polish was my third language, which I can understand, but I do not speak. And Hebrew was actually my fourth language. And my second best language now is English. No question about it. And in high school, I also studied a little bit Arabic and French. So basically, languages are nice things to know.
I agree with you. I think they're wonderful. But English is language number 5 for you.
Yes.
And how was it coming to Israel, to Nazareth Elite, to Upper Nazareth, a new immigrant, 8 or 9 years old? How did you manage here?
You see, also in perspective, I believe that it was a huge luck, because when we arrived at Kiryat Natrat, it was called then, there were only 500 people there.
Wow.
Very cold winds. It was really a new settlement. And my
Very
father
nice.
wanted to go to a kibbutz. My mother, after she was in the partisan, said, on my dead body, I will not go again to commune. So the compromise was to go and build a new town. So we arrived because we wanted it. The fact is that we were, I think, nearly 30 kids in the classroom, and only 3 were born in Israel. So
Okay.
the majority of us were newcomers from Russia and Poland and Hungary and Romania. And later on, after 2 years, they were also from Algeria and from Tunisia and Morocco and Iraq and so on. So basically, it was a real melting pot. And we danced folk dances that afterward I danced with you. So I started it when I was 9 years old. And we sang, they did everything, what is called the cultural compression. They did everything right. And only when I was in Stanford, and I studied with the anthropologist Spindler, there are couples that did a lot of anthropological research, and I had to submit a seminar. So I analyzed my childhood in Kiryat Natrat, and I realized how lucky I was and how they did everything as they should have done. During the mornings, we were gathered and the flag was put up, and a chapter of the Bible was read. And then we sang a song of the famous Israeli songs. So basically, the cultural compression was done perfectly. And the feeling was, I didn't feel that I'm a stranger, because all of us were the same. The Tzabars, the ones that were born in Israel, they were actually outsiders. And only when I was 15 years old, my father died when I was 11 years old, so this was a tragedy. And when my mother remarried, and we went to Ramat Gan, and I entered the high school in Ramat Gan when I was 15 years old, and my Hebrew was fluent, and I was dancing folk dances, and there was no trait that I'm an outsider, but I said that I was not born in Israel. Suddenly I became a newcomer. So the only one in class that was not born in Israel. So it was a very funny feeling at the beginning, but it was okay.
I remember you as a total Israeli.
Yeah.
At least for me, who had just come from Canada. So what did you study at university?
My first degrees were history and philosophy. I started also to teach at Or Shem in gymnasium in Ramat Gan history when I still was on my second year of degree, so I even didn't have a degree in history, but my teachers called me. It was an emergency to teach in the high school. I loved the students very, very much. And my second degree was already curriculum studies, system planning, and at Stanford University it was also design and evaluation of educational programs. But when I went to my first sabbatical at Berkeley University in 1992, I moved to the comparative higher education research, and since then I'm there. So I belong to several also international networks. I am currently a member of the University of the Future Network. We are 18 researchers from 18 countries dealing with what is going to happen in the future of higher education. I am part of the EDEN, the European Distance and E-Learning Network, EADTU, European Association of Distance Teaching University, the Rockefeller Foundation, Bellagio Center program, and so on. So it's very nice to be engaged with colleagues from all over the world, and of course, Fulbright. In 2005, I was part of 30 scholars, 20 from outside US and 10 from US, leading scholars in higher education, and it was the Fulbright program New Century Scholars. And we are up till now in connection. We published books and we are convening. And it was not the COVID-19 pandemic. So in October, I was supposed to be in Boston. And kind of celebrating a new book on future of higher education that we are now publishing at the start of 2021, and also celebrating 25 years of the Center for International Higher Education, which Professor Philip Albach was our head scholar in the Fulbright program.
Okay, and in addition, you are the rector of Open University.
I was. Yeah, I started Open University when I was 26 years old. When I was still doing my master degree, and my professor David Chen asked me to be his assistant. So since then, within intervals of my PhD and sabbaticals and so on, I am there. So I was also the head of the Department of Education and Psychology. For 5 years, I was the dean of Technology and Development, and for 2 years I was the Vice President for Academic Affairs until October last year. And now I'm just the full professor at the Department of Education and Technology.
Full professor is fine. And so, Sarah, the future of online education has become the present.
Yeah.
And you have decades of experience. So tell us, please, what the future holds, because professors and students all over the world are very confused now. What is going to happen and what should happen?
Well, if I would have known all the answers, I would be very lucky. But everybody is debating it. You know, tonight at 7 o'clock, I have a discussion with the professors from Chile that they are willing to collaborate with Open University in Israel about e-learning. Last week, exactly, it was the international conference in Buenos Aires about the future of university.
Sarah, I'm not going to let you off the hook.
No,
I
obviously, I will tell you. The biggest problem is, and I talked with you many times about it, the biggest problem is the teachers from kindergarten to PhD professors never experienced, never taught online. So they do not have neither the experience nor the expertise of how to do it. And it's not just taking a lecture and transferring it to Zoom or whatever. Nothing of this thing. I had experience in Israel Digital Israel, preparing a course on their platform, which was very interesting. And the lectures that I gave were 6, maximum to 20 minutes, which is not 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. But the secret of succeeding to develop such a course within 1 year, that we were a panel of a group of several experts. Not only I was in some professor named Mordaloni, and others were the experts, the subject matter experts, but they were pedagogy experts and technology experts. And so it was a team, and a team is doing a great job. So I believe that the end product was wonderful, but most teachers worldwide do not have such teams. They are expected to do their best, and during this COVID-19, they had to move online without any preparation. So I believe what will happen is that people are going to get more and more training of how to do it well, how to engage students, how to do things differently. But more and more people from Buenos Aires last week were talking that it's not just the pedagogy and how to do it, but also what to teach. That even the subjects, the disciplines, what we are teaching right now at university should change. And 2 major trends that right now go, even 3, I would say. First of all, there is the whole trend of open source. So people, also people are doing wonderful things and putting it for free.
Yeah.
Open educational resources, you have so many. Professors still have the tendency of not invented here. That if it's not invented by them, they are not using it. So people, universities and experts do not know how to take a wonderful lecture from a Stanford professor and to put it in their classroom instead of doing it by themselves, and it's less engaging. So the whole idea of MOOCs, massive open online courses, and open educational resources will somebody will need to help professors to get, and sometimes you can make a whole course that it will be part of your diploma without being at the university. So it's perfectly okay. Everybody is talking about it. Many are talking about micro credentials, nano courses, and so on, because it's not necessary sometimes to finish a whole degree, mainly a second degree after your bachelor, in order to be a kind of an expert in various fields that the working places are willing. So a huge debate is that currently many workplaces and firms say that they get graduates that are totally not prepared for them, that they have to retrain them again. So I believe that there will be a much more kind of collaborative ventures between the industry and the workplaces and universities, which is not the case. And I can hear sometimes even my colleagues at university is not preparing for work. We are academics. So whatever is happening at the workplace, it's none of our business, which is not the case now, because many, many people now in all these fields are talking about it. And also a trend that many subjects that we're teaching right now at university are built on the concepts since the Middle Ages, that you have the sciences and also social sciences are relatively very young sciences, 100 years or so, but they are now, you see, the most popular. Most of students at most comprehensive university study social sciences that have not existed 100 years ago: psychology, sociology, business administration, economics, and so on. So I believe that new subject will emerge. And I'm following, you have in Davos every year, they are gathering there and they are putting, every year they are publishing a book of future jobs. Future jobs. And
World Economic Forum.
Exactly, the World Economic Forum. And you see that they speak that more than 50% of the working force right now will be obsolete within 20, 30 years. And they will have to either look for totally different jobs or redefine totally the things that they are doing now. And it was funny that there's going to be a need for people that are diving in the oceans. So there are not enough divers in the ocean. Not enough people that are producing electricity from תחנות רוח, windmills. More and more people will, what they speak about, will work in pink collar jobs. Pink collar is more nursing, physiotherapists that will come to homes of people to work. Less clerks, less lawyers, and so on. So it's very interesting because it is, the whole world is so much changing. So what is going to happen to universities that have to be geared a little bit?
Let me tell you my experience.
Yes.
Universities are pushing back. I'm worried that universities are going to be completely obsolete and completely redundant, because I hear these things from you, and we've been talking now for the past 8 years. But you know, universities now are talking about how to prevent students from cheating on exams and how to teach using PowerPoint online and how to give the 90-minute lectures. In other words, everything that you're saying is not filtering through. The professors want to go back to the 1,000-year-old frontal teaching that didn't work before, and now it sure doesn't work.
So I think it's a little bit, you're taking it to the extreme. I don't think universities will ever be obsolete, and not the leading university, because the whole experience of studying at the university, the grasp of the university, you know that the campus, when I wrote my book on campus and distance teaching universities, so I looked at what is the word campus, because in Latin, campus is a field. So the architect that designed Princeton University, I don't remember now, it was in 1700 or 800 something. And he decided that he wants a university that will be a field, like Plato Academia, and in between will be buildings, and people will be able to walk in a field. So the whole idea of this field and walking and interacting with other students. I went to Stanford when it was already PhD studies, but I think a full-time student, I was only in Stanford, because when I studied my first degree and second degree at Tel Aviv University, I was working full-time. I was doing a lot of other things. And I also succeeded to complete my degree in 3 years and 2 years and so on. But I didn't enjoy, only when I was a PhD student, I felt what a joy it is to be 100% a student. That all my time was devoted to studies. I was teaching also folk dances. I was teaching for bar mitzvahs, drashot and so on. But basically I was a 100% student, and it was a wonderful feeling. I think one of the problems of Israeli students that most of them do not know even what is the feeling of being a full-time student, which so universities will continue to do. And if a student, a professor is teaching also face-to-face, but he's a wonderful professor, so basically, I can just listen to them and all my mind goes like this. It doesn't mean that you have all the time to talk and to be in teams and to be engaged. Sometimes you can listen to a very clever person and get a lot out of it. So the combination is important how to do it.
Okay. I agree with you, about, I think it was Aristotle that taught walking, peripatos.
Also, Plato before him. Plato was the teacher of Aristotle. Yes, of course.
And but it wasn't Aristotle that got thrown out of the school, so he would walk with the students in the fields. One thing I noticed, for example, at Tel Aviv University, where I spent my entire adult life, is that when we were young, the fields were so vast at the university. And when you say this to me, I get goosebumps, because that's when I was a full-time student. And I tell my young students to be full-time students, and they get angry with me. But I agree with you. And we used to walk all over the campus, and it was all open spaces. And now you can't move because of the buildings. But my question to you, Sarah, is what's going to happen now? This year, nobody is going to campuses around the world. The fields have disappeared. What is going to happen when the pandemic is over? Are students going to go back to campuses, or is this Zoom going to start pervading academia, because it's cheaper and it's more convenient, and it has certain advantages?
It's not going to replace it totally. I heard lately there was a conference of Eden, and Tony Bates, who is an expert in e-learning and distance education, and he gave a lot of data from Canada. He's a Canadian, but on the Western, Alberta and so on.
Alberta is Canada,
Yeah, but also now in Toronto, he's in the distance education.
But Sarah, in Canada, education, university education is very cheap for Canadians. And in America, Stanford and Harvard and MIT, I don't know, $80,000, $100,000 a year. And a lot of people,
but not for PhD, not for PhD
say that these universities are going to go broke.
The universities will not, because Harvard and Stanford and all this, they have a lot of money. So they are not going to, and it's still a prestige to study there. And if you are a graduate student, you study for free, because usually you have the fellowships and so on. But it will change. And what he predicted the questions that you asked me, how much it will be transformed to Zoom and to online, is that there will be a growth of 15 to 20% of Zoom and online courses. So it's not going to substitute in total, but it will change. And for example, in medicine, I was teaching also at Tel Aviv University 29 years in the medical school, nurses second degree. So if you have a world expert in a field, why not listen to him? or see how he's operating and so on, and not give it to mediocre somebody that is doing a much less job. So it will happen, but it's also how to use open educational resources and how to collaborate. But he said 15 to 20%. So still 80% will be campus-based teaching and on the campus, because students like their dormitories and they like the together in pubs at the university. Part when you speak with students at Harvard, they say, I came all over the world to be in Harvard, now I'm in dormitory and I'm doing it online. So basically the whole feeling is that they want to associate with, I had the people when I studied Stanford in the I Center, International Center, for more than 30 countries. My best friend was from India and from Mexico. So basically this is part of the experience. It will become much more international. I believe so. I believe that the graduate degrees will change dramatically more because it's for people that work, and that it will be a movement, but it will not abolish universities. So they will not become obsolete ever, I believe, because they are very strong institutions. Yes.
No, I hope that you're right, and I love frontal teaching, but I think that Zoom is going to consume a lot of academic education because it's cheaper, and I can teach 200, 300 students in a course. I can have students from the West Coast of the United States in my classroom suddenly. So, but this is something we'll have to talk in 5 or 10 years. We'll have another conversation.
But you see, I have a book that says University in the Digital Age, what are the misconceptions? Drucker, for example, very famous. He said that more than 30 years ago, that universities will become obsolete and dinosaurs. Nothing of his predictions happened. So because universities are very strong, and the idea of the identity of belonging in the United States to the sports of the university and to so many other things, which is not just getting a degree and studying this course or another. Not only that, I can stay in favor of the American higher education because I like the American, not education, but higher education. They are very flexible, which is unsought here in Israel and also in Europe. You know by yourself that if you study in a college in Israel, you finished as a handasai, as a practical engineer, and you want to move to the Technion or to Tel Aviv University or to Hebrew University, the chance that they will acknowledge part of your studies is nearly zero. In the United States, because the first degree basically is a repetition of high school, because it's a general degree, it's a liberal arts degree. So you can study now because of the money. Many students study in community colleges, which are basically free. And if they are among the 10, 15% of excelling students, they can move to the third year of even Berkeley University, a very prestigious university. So basically they're not paying anything for their 2 years of study, and they are moving third year and they are getting even fellowships and so on. So if you are a very good student, you can end up with not paying so much. If not, then you are taking loans, and it's a whole issue. Because once when you finished in the Ivy League universities, so your salary was doubled after you finished. This is not the case right now. Maybe 10, 20% more than if somebody studied in a second or third league of universities. So the whole debate is right now whether it is wise to invest in higher education at prestigious universities if you admit it. You know, people that are going to Harvard and Stanford, only 5% of the people, applicants, that from the very start, they are good ones if they are willing to study, are accepted, 5%, which means that as long as the demand will be much higher than the way that they can, they will not be destroyed, I can assure you.
Okay, so I want to move on to music now.
Wonderful.
Let's talk about music.
You know that I'm very sensitive to music because my husband, who died unfortunately 4 years ago, played 35 years in the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. So music was and still is very much an integral part of my life.
What instruments did he play?
Viola.
Mm-hmm. So in order to play viola, you have to have wonderful ears.
But you
And-
start to know that it's the only string instrument that you have to start with violin, because cello you can start with the cello as a child, and all others. But a viola, you never start with the viola. You start with the violin, and then when you are 10, 11, 12 years old, you move to a viola, if you have very big hands.
Wonderful.
I
So,
can show you because I have it behind. You see, this is my husband and me, and he's holding a viola. So it's a big violin.
and I don't want to get into music now too much, but you know, the violin string players, they can tune perfectly. Not the regular tuning that we have here on the pianos, which is not perfect. And this is a big advantage. So they can hear the true overtones better than, let's say, piano players. Sometimes string musicians don't like to play with piano or guitar because we tune the instruments in an imperfect way. So this is very interesting. But what about the Beatles? I left classical music when the Beatles came out. I told my piano teacher, teach me Beatles. I don't want to study classical music anymore. Was that a mistake?
No, you know that my son was playing piano and also violin and also viola. Right now he's hooked by guitars and mainly electrical guitars. So he bought lately a bass guitar and he has another two electrical guitars. And as long as he deals with music, it's my huge pleasure that he is engaged in music. I once went to your class when you talked about the Beatles, and you asked people what is their love song. I love many songs of the Beatles, but I Love You was my preferred one because of the team.
And I love her.
And I love her, yes. I love her. You see, it was...
So I'm going to play this for you.
Wonderful.
And you're going to sing.
No.
Really?
This is something that I'm not doing.
I give her all my love. Please join me.
No, I can't. This is a request. I can't join you, yes. But I'm listening very well.
I love you, love her too. I love her. Just sing a few words, Sarah.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Forgive me, yes.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you?
I think once we talked about because we are also part of the TED Circus, so
That's
we have
right.
a chance to talk on various issues about proportion, to get proportion in life. That I think that basically now when you see how people are dealing with this alternative situation that we are living in, it very much depends on how it's okay. It's not something that we are used to doing, that if we had a choice, that we would choose to live in such a situation. But given the fact that my mother used to say that God should kind of protect us from things that we can endure, that can happen and that we can endure. And I remember it because she used to say it a lot of times, that basically we kind of live in a luxurious life, even those that we are at home. So compared to other people in the world, even right now, or to what our parents passed, it is basically a thing that we should remember. It will overcome. It's not easy, but we should find the good things out of this situation. I felt that very strangely, with some of my friends, I have a more close connection now. Because, for example, there were friends from the Open Universities that we more than 40 years, and we used to meet every month in a cafe in Tel Aviv, every month for 40 years. But now we are meeting in Zoom every week.
Yeah.
So basically, and when it was open, we also met in physical cafe, and some other friends that I have a regular Zoom meeting every week, which was not the case when I worked and I was very busy. So paradoxically, with close friends that you really enjoy, the connection even started tighter and closer, which is really interesting. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I agree. We're four kids and we talk every week now. We never did that before, even though Skype and Zoom and all of these technologies have existed for 10 to 20 years. So yeah, no, I agree with you. And I wanted to ask you one more thing. Do you ever have a feeling that you're talking to people that you haven't met physically before, but you talk to them on Zoom 4 or 5 times, and then you feel like you've actually met them? Or is that just me?
It's difficult for me to answer because with most of people that I talk, is basically not in the lectures that I don't know. Most of the people are people that I knew for many years. So I do not have so much experience in getting to know new people through Zoom. It's mainly people that I was in connection with them, but and I continue. Of course, if I'm invited for lectures to strangers and so on, but then I do not get any. Yes, but true, people are telling more stories. People are more open. People sometimes we have at our the place that I live. We meet. We even meet right now outside physically. Once a week, we meet from 5:30 to 7:30 every Sunday, and we discuss things. 10 to 14 women that are living in the 4 buildings in which we live. And I felt that people are more open about what worries them, how, what are their difficulties, what are their advantages, and so on. People are more open, yes.
So I guess my last question, Sarah, with all your experience as a wonderful human being and a professor, when this is over, are we going to go back to normal or a new normal, or will we never be normal again?
It will be a new normal. It will be a new normal. I believe if you look for the orchestra, for example, they're totally isolated from their audience, and this is a huge kind of the biggest present for an artist is that they get applause and so on. I remember once we went to the Canary Islands and the orchestra was playing, and my son was 5 years old, and they got so much applause. And Zubin Mehta went on the stage, and the second and third and fourth and fifth time. And later on, they came to Hala Tarbut here in Israel, and they played exactly the same program. And there was once or two, and people ran to the cars. And the experience of my son was, he was telling my sister, you know, I think in Israel, people, their hands are aching. So basically, it was his perception as a child. Why here they are sitting at their places and applauding. But what I want to say for an artist, the orchestra, and whatever, is there is a huge feeling of kind of. I know also when I'm lecturing. Sometimes when I lectured in UNESCO, and there were more than 1,000 people in the audience, I felt like a rock star, because what you get from the public that you are lecturing, when there are so many, is something like electricity. And when there are few, it's okay for seminar, but it's not the same energy that you are having. So if you ask me, it will be a new way of people. People will use more Zoom at work. And also, I know that my son is working in the high tech, and they already decided that they will not go to normal 100%. Now it was supposed to be because of the Black Friday and the bachelor's, Chinese bachelor, and so on. Every year I used to go in November to New York to kind of reinforce the staff that are working there in New York during this period. Suddenly, totally changed. And I believe that they will learn something and they will make a balance out of it. But I hope they will make a good balance. Let's hope.
Let's hope so. So Sarah, Professor Sarah, Guri Rosenblit, it's been wonderful reconnecting with you. And let's continue to stay young forever.
Bravo. I sign every word, yes.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye-bye.